Hi everyone! Today I am doing a writing video. I thought a lot about how I was going to do this video, but I thought if I did it in like an interactive way, it might be quite fun. Because last year at camp, at a different camp, I did some creative writing activities. One of my friends was a specialist and she did loads of cool creative writing activities and it was so much fun. But one of the parts that I'm finding it hard to recreate is obviously being in a room all together and sharing our different stories and sharing ideas and helping each other out. So I've come up with sort of an interactive way of doing it that will hopefully try and recreate that a little bit while we can't all be together at camp. So the first thing we're going to do is sort of an icebreaker thing, and I'm going to give 3 different pictures and I am going to ask you to write for 2 minutes, imagining all the things that you can see if you were in the picture, in the place that I'm going to show you. All the things that you can see, you can smell, you can hear. So you're going to be thinking about what you can see, what you can smell, what you can hear, what you can touch, and just think about what it might be like to be there, how you feel there. And this will be really helpful for getting into doing our story. So, hi, so we are back for our interactive story. I hope you had fun doing your icebreaker, and hopefully it'll help on the next bit. So, I'm going to give you 4 numbers, and you can pick a number in your head now. So I'll give you a minute to pick a number, and then I'm going to give you the numbers and what they mean. So sort of like I've assigned a number to each setting. If the setting that you get, you don't like it, that's absolutely fine. It's just to give you an idea if you're stuck. If you want to pick one of the other ones from the other numbers, or you want to pick a completely different setting, absolutely cool. So, hoping you have a number between 1 and 4 in your head. Just give you a second more. Okay, so number 1 is outer space. Okay, so that's the first one. Number 2 is underwater. Number 3 is in the city. And number 4 is in the forest or the woods. So they're the 4 options. So I'm going to repeat them. So number 1 is outer space. Number 2 is underwater. Number 3 is in the city. And number 4 is in the forest or the woods. Okay, so you can pick completely different ones, or you can use one of those, or you can use the one that you picked. Okay, so when we're thinking about the setting, we're going to be thinking about what can you see around you. So we've not decided the character yet, but just imagine you're in this place. What can you see? At the moment, I'm in my garden. I can see my dog right now, but apart from that, I can see trees and flowers, and I can hear the birds, and not gonna lie, it's raining a little bit, so I can feel that, and I'm sat on a blanket. You can think about whether you might be sat, whether you might be standing up, whether you might be walking around, running around. What are you doing in this place? Think about how you're feeling. Think about whether it's a scary place, a happy place, whether you've been there before. And that's going to feed into the character bit. But think about smell, touch, what you can see, what you can hear, all those different things, and have a little brainstorm. You can do that at the top of your page, on the back, any way it works for you, but I think sometimes brainstorming with the setting is really good. You can also draw what it would look like if it's outer space. It doesn't have to be somewhere you've been, it can be a completely new place. They're sometimes more fun because you can be more imaginative, and it also doesn't have to be realistic because this is your story, so it could be anything you want. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that, and then we're going to come back to design the character. So the next bit is designing your character. So first off, you can be whoever you want to be. So the main character is called the protagonist. So that's the person that's at the center of your story. Normally a story has a protagonist. So you'll have someone at the center. So it can be you. Sometimes it's the most fun to write about you in cool different situations. It can be you. It can be someone you know. It can be someone that you've never met and you've invented. It can be anyone. And So something else to think about when we're writing is what perspective and voice we're writing in. So if you're saying, I am doing this, I am doing this, I'm going to do this, I did this, that's first person. So you are in the perspective of either yourself or someone else, but you're writing from an I voice. So that's a really popular voice, and it can be a really personal way of writing. So that's the first one, first person. And then you have second person, which is you. So you're speaking to someone. So you will do this, you have seen this, you, this, that, you. It's using you. So it's speaking to an audience. So that one's a little bit harder to do on these stories because you're more focusing on the protagonist rather than the audience that are listening. But third person is also an option, which is, for example, if I'm talking about myself, Elle did this, Elle did that, Elle will do this, Elle was happy, Elle was sad, etc. So that's third person. So the cool thing with third person is that you can imagine that you are a fly on the wall. So you will be able to see everything. So it's not a limited view necessarily. Whereas in first person, you can only see what the eye is doing. So say it was me and I was walking around, you can only see what's from my eyes. Whereas a third person perspective is not limited necessarily because it can see what's happening down the road. And meanwhile, while Elle did this, this was happening. So you can get like a different perspective. So sometimes a writer switches between different persons, and that can make the story really varied. That's up to you whether you switch, but I would suggest to go for first person or third person and know which one you're going to be writing from the start, because that will make it easier to plan it out. So we're going to be thinking about the character, the protagonist, who you are, what you're doing there in the environment you're in, so which setting you're in, why you're there, how you're feeling, and then we'll get on to the plot points. So by now you have the first two stages. You have the setting and you have the character. So all we have left to do before we start writing is the prompt. So for this one, I'm going to give you a couple of sentences which could help start your stories, but I will also give some themes and ideas which you could also take, but absolutely go with whatever you feel is right. Go with the story, because obviously I don't know the setting or the character that you've chosen, so choose something that works for you. So something I wanted to talk about was something I wanted to talk about was story arc. So it kind of goes like this. So at the beginning, you have obviously the beginning, and then it goes up, you build up the action. So sometimes a story doesn't have to be an adventure story, but if it was an adventure story, for example, you'd build up the tension and the action here and get to a point in the middle where it is the height of excitement or discovery, or someone's scared or something happens. That's where the event happens normally in a short story. And then it comes back down, and then you come to the end point, which normally has a conclusion. So normally short stories have sort of a wrapping up, but at the same time, if you don't want to wrap up your story in like a sort of tight way that everything's resolved, that's absolutely fine. That's completely up to you. So you can use this kind of method of the curve, and actually sometimes what I used to do was draw the curve at the top of my page and just like keep looking at it and know whereabouts I was at in the story. That's sometimes really helpful. So I'm going to talk about a few prompts. So they can be sentence starters that start off your whole story, or they can just sort of like develop your ideas. So the first sentence starter that I think would be quite a good one is, today is the day that ... So that's quite a good one because it starts you off on sort of a curiosity. You don't know what's going to happen. So that one's quite a good one because you can take it in any direction you want. Another one, which was cool, was you could write about meeting someone. So you don't have to write about necessarily meeting them. You could meet them by accident, or you could see them meeting your favourite celebrity or actress or actor or singer. So that one's a cool one. Another one you could start with is I remember the day that. So you could start with I remember the day that ... So that sort of takes you back in time. So also another thing to think about is the way you write. So whether it's in past tense or present tense. Present tense is really exciting, but you can always switch the tenses. So you could go present tense or future tense, like I will do this, I would do this, she would see this, they would see this. Or you can write in the past, which would be like, I remember when this happened, and then she remembered that she knew this. So switching between the tenses is a cool one, especially if you're doing something like time travel, which was one of the ideas that I'm going to say in a minute. So we've got that I remember the day that, or you could do I couldn't believe what I just saw. So that's also a nice one. It's like kind of a ... one. It's like, what's going to happen? And you can decide. That's the coolest bit about making up your own stories. You can decide. So some of the ideas I had are travelling back in time, meeting your favourite celebrity, or sort of like, I don't know, a story including them. Something about summer camp. And if you've never been, that's absolutely fine. What you think summer camp would be like. A superhero story. You're on a quest to find a prize. You can write about anything. You can write about people you know, people you don't know. Your protagonist can go in any direction you want. So I am so excited to read your stories. So I'd say you do it for about 15-20 minutes. And then we will wrap it up and I will show you how you can send them to camp and share it with us, and I would love to read them. Okay, let's get started. So you should be at the end of your story. You can wrap it up or you can carry on with it after the video. It's absolutely fine either way. I would actually love it if you carried on the story. That would be so cool. But anything you've done, if you want to share it with us, that would be so cool. So I'm going to put the email here, and it's going to be mary@campmorty.com, and then also you can post pictures of your stories or drawings with your stories on Instagram, and you can tag us at Camp Morty. I'm hoping it's there, it might not be. And that would be so cool because we'd be able to read each other's stories. And I hope you've learned something new from this video or had some fun writing. Writing can be a really fun way to sort of use your imagination, creativity, and also it helps me sometimes when I'm not having a very good day and I'm feeling a bit like everything's going not the way I want it to, and it can be really nice to imagine and use your creativity to sort of explore different worlds that you're not in right now, whether it's in Australia or it's in outer space or it's under the sea. Like, you can write about anything that you want to, and also it can go really nicely with art as well. You can illustrate your stories, you can make little zines, which I'm going to be doing later in the summer, so you should definitely check out that video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.